Hey, this is Anthony with Level 1 Gaming, and today we've got a hands-on deep dive with Elden Ring Nightreign. Level 1 Gaming was one of the many lucky players who were able to get into the Elden Ring Nightreign network test that ran this past weekend and is wrapping up as I record this. We got hands-on with this follow-up to 2022's Game of the Year for almost 10 hours and got our hands on many different weapons, classes, and more. We got hands-on with the game on an Xbox Series X, and this network test required an internet connection and playing with other players. This, after all, was a network test, so we do not have any details on how the game will work when you want to play solo, which From Software has confirmed is still an option. However, even with this option, it will not turn Elden Ring Nightreign into a traditional Elden Ring or Souls experience from a structure standpoint. This game focuses entirely on the multiplayer experience and getting you and your team into battle right away with as little friction as possible. Also, screenshot and video capture was disabled on both Xbox and PlayStation consoles while playing the Elden Ring Nightreign network test. Unfortunately, we do not have capture card equipment, so we are using stock and credited footage from other coverage from Fextra Life, Iron Pineapple, and footage directly from Software. As I mentioned earlier, this entire experience is tailored for multiplayer and getting into battles right away. At least from this network test, you are not venturing out into the Elden Ring world and just exploring at a slow pace and finding your own way. Instead, you group up at the Round Table Hold and take on various missions that drop you into the standard Elden Ring world with new encounters designed for Nightreign. And this all occurs through procedural generation each time you play. So, what are some of these things that ease the friction? So one example is there is 0 fall damage. Once you drop down into your mission from your spectral bird, you can then take any jump and land with no damage. So this major part of exploring the world in the original Elden Ring is not here. You're given the tools and gameplay adjustments to get into the action quickly and focus on your mission. You're not stopping to smell the flowers, to get around topographical obstacles and the like. It definitely takes some time to adjust to these changes after hundreds of hours in this world in the previous game and its expansion. Not only are you given this ability to take any jump without damage, but your base speed of walking and running is much faster as well. Not only are they doing this to drive you to your mission and have very little friction in the way, but also because you have a battle royale style ring slowly closing in on you. Therefore, you are on a countdown to get your mission done and move on. The basic breakdown for how this countdown works is based on the in-game time of day. So on day 1, you start at level 1, explore, loot weapons, and level up. The changes here, make the game feel like a roguelite. Day 2, the map shifts. This is where the procedural generation comes in, enemies hit harder, and better loot starts to appear, including relics, which I'll talk about soon. And then day 3, that's your attempt to do the final boss fight and complete it. The world is always changing and is procedurally generated every time you start a new 3-day cycle. And even during that cycle, it will change. Again, distancing this game from the traditional exploration focus and more on working with your team, rushing through areas quickly to level up, and get ready for the final days ahead. This doesn't make Nightreign a bad game, but it's important to understand the structure of the game here, as it is not similar to the multiplayer in the original Elden Ring, which just took the base game and added friends. With Nightreign, the entire gameplay structure revolves around multiplayer and these 3-day sessions. Luckily here, you won't be disconnected at the end of each session like in co-op and previous Elden Ring games, and your group will remain intact as you continue your runs. Now, another thing that really differentiates this is the various preset classes you choose from. So while you are starting out at level 1, you are given these classes to choose from that have these automatic boosts, if I want to call it that. Whether it's armor, weapons, and other gear. You're not starting out with nothing and, with a tattered robe. That's not how you're starting out. So there's 4 different types. There's the Wilder. It's a melee class. It's got a grappling hook to pull and zip enemies. A Guardian, which is a tank-style character, has a massive shield that can, bash enemies and make them fly everywhere. The Duchess is a super high-damage class, very fast and high damage. And the Recluse is a mage with the ability to combine all the different elemental spells we know and love from Elden Ring. So again, each one of these classes have a lot of gear and items to already get you started. And it almost gives it, I don't want to say like a hero shooter, but, these are classes with specific tools, with specific roles. So the one you pick, you need to lean into that. You're not going to pick a mage class and then change your mind that you want to focus on, melee weapons. You're going to lean into that class. So each of these character classes hit, that specific type of class and archetype that we love. So it ensures you have a nice variety in a team. It's not important to have a variety. It's not necessary because I played with randoms the whole time. None of my friends got into the test, so we never planned in advance. I'm going to be this one, you're going to be that one. It was always random, and it always worked out. These characters are all buffed, like I said. They're not just level 1 characters like we normally start in a game like this. You're set up to get going immediately in the world in day 1. This gives the players the ability to get into a game without having to create a character that meets people's criteria. And this has always kind of been a problem in the Souls community with a lot of gatekeeping and snobbery of people's builds. Having these builds ready for everyone gives a good starting ground with no one having to worry about build specifics, but that doesn't mean the game is easy or that, you're not going to be given upgrades to really customize your builds. If anything, Nightreign is likely some of the most difficult Elden Ring content, given the time constraints and the unpredictability, given the randomly generated world, each time you come back. It seems the bosses for the missions you take on will always remain the same, but everything around that will change, meaning you can't count on your memorization of enemy locations, traps, gear, and more. This gives these, the runs a fresh feel each time, but as mentioned, makes for some very difficult challenges as you are always going in blind, more or less. Gameplay-wise, everything feels like Elden Ring that has come before, from the controls, the world, the enemies, the weapons, the menus, and everything else. Not that there isn't anything new here, but if you have played the previous game and expansion, you will be comfortable and ready to fight within minutes. The biggest change here are the classes and the variety of unique weapons and items that you will find. From crossbows, which made me very excited, could there be guns in the final game to give that Bloodborne feel? To the unique item classes, like having a grappling hook with one of the classes. There's a lot of creativity and unique mechanics built into the weapons, classes, and items, which give a lot of unique gameplay twists and edges against the enemies. I played around with all the classes and found a lot of interesting weapons and items that I thought were more unique than the last one I found. I am curious if these items are also randomly generated, like the items themselves, or if there's just set items that are randomly found. It will be very interesting to find out these mysteries once the final game releases, because that's one of the many classic aspects of From Software games, figuring out those mysteries of how the game works. Another major part of Nightreign are relics. These reminded me of buffs you get in roguelike games. They give you a special passive ability or boost, and they stack, making you more and more powerful. The more you can get in a run, the more powerful you will be once you hit the final boss on the 3-day run. So my final thoughts here. I played the network test on an Xbox Series X with no connection issues, disconnects, or anything like that. I know on PlayStation the servers got shut down for a while and had some major issues, but on Xbox I had a smooth time. The game also seems to run a lot better than Elden Ring or Shadow of the Erdtree. I think given the procedural nature of the worlds on each run means the world just isn't as complex as the handcrafted worlds. To be fair, I never really found myself exploring any area that felt unique or new. It always felt like a remix of the original Elden Ring. I'm sure there will be some handcrafted moments that will surprise us in the final game, but like the focus on multiplayer and procedural 3D scenarios, exploring the world for a long time in the original game is just not the focus here. This is a multiplayer game meant to be replayed again and again. Nightreign will definitely divide Elden Ring fans. If you're not interested in multiplayer and want to experience this on your own, we don't know how well that experience will be yet, since the functionality was not in the network test. So at this time, you really need to be interested in playing with others and dedicating the time to the 3-day cycle, which isn't too long, but definitely longer than a regular multiplayer match in a popular game like Fortnite. The streamlined character creation and procedurally generated world also detracts from the exploration and character-driven nature of the original game and expansion, leaving me a bit empty by the end of the network test. That same attachment to the world, your progress, the freeform exploration is gone here. The focus is entirely on combat, classes, builds, and weapons, which is thrilling and fun, but lacks some of that original magic here. This is Anthony with Level 1 Gaming. Thanks for checking this out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.